This all happened about a year ago, right after I moved into the apartment near downtown. I had taken the place, a cheap, slightly run-down unit on the third floor of an old brick building, because I needed to be close to the hospital for my new job and couldn't afford anything nicer. The building was mostly quiet. I only had one elderly neighbor directly below me, but the unit above mine had been empty since I got there. The weird noises started right away, but it was the dreams that really got to me. The dreams weren't a typical nightmare with monsters or gore. It was simple, and that's what made it terrifying. I would find myself at the top of a wide, curving staircase, the kind you see in old, empty houses. And halfway down, there she would be. A woman, standing perfectly still, her back to me. She wore a long, dark dress that seemed to pull all the light into itself. She never moved, and I couldn't make out any details of her face or hair, but her presence was a crushing weight. I know I couldn't pass her. The first time I had the dream, the feeling wasn't just fear. It was despair, like being confronted with something so utterly final that resistance was useless. I would stand at the top, unable to move or speak, until the sheer intensity of the fear would jolt me awake, heart hammering against my ribs. The dream became a regular fixture, happening maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Then, things started bleeding into my waking life. It began with the small things. A shadow flickering in my peripheral vision that would vanish when I turned. A faint, cloying scent of something like old potpourri mixed with dust that would appear and dissipate randomly. It was during this time that I started getting the chills every time I had to use the building's main staircase. The elevator was almost always broken, so I was stuck walking up and down. That awful image from the dream, the woman blocking the way, the sheer panic of being unable to move. It was always right there whenever I was on those steps. It was like carrying the scene with me. And then, the sound began. It would start late at night. A sound of faint, continuous, almost inaudible whispering, coming from the ceiling directly above my bedroom. It sounded like someone speaking quickly, breathlessly, but I could never make out the words. It was too insistent, too precise to be the building settling. I'd pull the covers over my head, rationalizing it away. One morning, after a particularly rough night, I was making coffee. I saw a quick, dark shape in the reflection of my phone screen. A tall, slender silhouette standing directly behind me in the doorway. I spun around, but the hallway was empty. It was only a fraction of a second, but I felt the residual chill of something being there. I spent the rest of that day obsessing over the connection between the image in my dream and the things happening in the apartment. I was grasping for an explanation, any explanation, that would link the dreams, the sounds, because the alternative was that I was genuinely losing my mind. I decided to call the landlord to complain about the constant noise from the empty unit. He sighed and said, "Look, I know what you're hearing. I've heard it all before. Unit 4A hasn't had a tenant in over 40 years. It's sealed. Nothing is up there. If you don't like the noise, you're free to break your lease and leave. I've told the others the same thing." He hung up, clearly annoyed. The fact that the apartment above me, the source of the frantic whispering, was supposed to be completely inaccessible and untouched for decades was enough. That night, I went to bed early, exhausted but terrified. The whispering started again, right above me. But then, it was violently interrupted by a sudden, echoing clatter from the empty unit above. The clear, sharp sound of something hard and small hitting the bare floorboards and scattering wildly. Silence immediately followed. Then the whispering resumed, only now it was punctuated by a frantic, mechanical clicking sound, the beads being rapidly scooped up. I heard the sound of desperation, the woman speaking quickly and breathlessly. Then the cold hit, a sudden, deep draft, despite all my windows being sealed. The air in the room grew heavy and suffocating, exactly like the atmosphere in my dreams. I opened my eyes a crack, and in the weak light filtering in from the street lamp, I saw it. My bedroom door, which I always close completely, was slightly ajar, and in the sliver of darkness standing just outside was a dark, motionless silhouette. I knew with an absolute certainty that froze the blood in my veins that she was no longer confined to the staircase in my dreams. She had moved into my hallway. The next thing I remember is waking up on the floor of my bedroom. The sunlight was streaming through the window, and the air was still, quiet, and ordinary. I immediately packed a bag, just essentials, just enough for 2 days, and walked out. I didn't wait to shower, didn't leave a note. I called my boss and told them I was sick, drove to a cheap motel an hour away, and called the landlord to terminate the lease immediately, forfeiting my deposit and the month's rent. I never stepped back inside that apartment building again. But even now, on quiet nights, sometimes I hear a faint, breathless whisper that wasn't there before. And the apartment I live in now, it doesn't have a staircase. I made sure of that.